Hey guys, it's Josh with the Final Whistle Pod. I'm here with my co-host Jerry, and today we're gonna get that first podcast episode, our highly anticipated AFC North offseason overview. So Jerry, take it away with our first segment.
First up, we've got Today in Sports. Today we'll be going over the main Olympic events and some of the biggest highlights and finishes. First up, we've got the 100-meter final, where Noah Lyles from Team America took home gold, the best sprinter in the world. He won in a tight photo finish against
Yes.
Kachane Thompson and Fred Curley taking second. Jamaica fans, we know he won. You don't gotta no arguments here. He beat
Yep.
Kashane Thompson by 5 thousandths of a second, and Fred Curley came in third. Both him and Kashane Thompson ran a 9.79, but Noah was able to just edge him out to get the gold for Team USA. Yesterday, we had a world record set in the women's 400-meter hurdles by the GOAT, Sydney McLaughlin. This is her sixth time setting her own world record. So she ran a 50.37, crazy time, and we'll hopefully be able to see her go sub 50 next season. Another huge event was the men's 200-meter final. Unfortunately, Noah wasn't able to take gold, although he was the favorite in the event. Latsila Tebogo out of Botswana took gold, running a 19.45. Kenny Bednarek came in second, running a 19.62. And Noah got the bronze with a 19.70. However, there was some controversy around it. Apparently, Noah Lyles has been diagnosed with COVID prior to the event, so he was running with COVID and still got the bronze. Josh, what do you think about that? Do you think his COVID diagnosis was legit?
Yes, people just weren't paying attention. Like, seriously, that thing came out days ago, bro. It came out days before the race, 2 days before the race. I guess nobody was paying attention. NBC and his mom said he had COVID. He did an interview or he was seen at a track with the mask on. So I knew he had COVID. But yeah,
I
for
know, even
sure.
prior to the event.
In all the buildup, mhm, he
I
didn't look 100%. Obviously, he wasn't at 100. What were you gonna say?
said even prior to the event, he was shown in a mask right before his warm up and before his walkout. So I don't know how anyone's saying that he's just made an
Yeah.
excuse because he didn't get gold.
Yeah, and I don't know why, because if he had gotten gold, bro, the COVID narrative would have been even bigger. They would have been pushing that.
Flu
Oh my
game,
goodness, he ran gold and he was this sick. Yeah, the
yeah,
flu game. So yeah, I'm very proud of my guy. It's my favorite guy in terms of sprinting. So to go out and get a bronze while being sick is a fantastic achievement. People forget just because they like to hate on people like Shakari, people like Noah, that getting a medal is an achievement. Just getting a medal helps the U.S. team in general. So anytime you can go out and medal at Olympics, it's a huge, big deal. So proud of him.
yep. And that will be all
So
for
next,
our.
oh yeah, my bad for cutting you off.
All right, we're good. We're good.
My bad.
Still ironing out the
So
kinks.
next, we're going on to a contract situation that's been pretty crazy in not this division, but in the NFC East. Ceedee Lamb and the Cowboys. Things are looking shaky there. Ceedee Lamb, at first, it was just taking a while to get the contract done, and then Jerry Jones. I really don't know why his geriatric stuff is still running the team. Jerry Jones comes out and says, I have no urgency to get the deal done. And Ceedee Lamb quote tweets it and says, LOL. So I do think this is Ceedee Lamb's last year as a Cowboy. In fact, I think this is the last year of the Cowboys as we know them. I think Dak could be moved on. I think CD is definitely going to be moved on at this point just because the trust isn't there anymore. Jerry, what do you think about the Cowboys or Jerry Jones really coming out and saying something like that? I think it's a terrible decision. What do you think?
I mean, this is just another reason why Jerry Jones is my favorite owner and GM in the league. As an Eagles fan, he's been sabotaging the Cowboys even more than us these past couple years. I really have nothing but love for the guy. But in all seriousness, I think CeeDee Lamb 100% deserves the money that he's asking for. I mean, he was arguably the best receiver in the league last year. And I don't think he'll have the same type of year that he did last year, but I think he will still put up very good numbers. And I think he's worth basically all the money in the world. And I completely agree. I think all of the big guys that they haven't signed yet, they're not getting back, especially if they have Jerry Jones as the owner and the GM. Many players aren't a fan of him for good reason because he's old and he's just not good at his job. Michael Parsons will be an Eagle
Yeah.
come next year, and the
Okay.
Cowboys' downfall is
All
ahead of
right.
us.
All right. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But yeah, for sure, I think that even if it wasn't Jerry Jones, I just think it has gotten to the point with this team. I just don't think there's anything there anymore. I think that it's time for them to try and reset. And I just don't think I've seen some Cowboy fans being cocky, like, oh, if you're gonna do this, then we don't need you. Like, it doesn't matter what he does, bro. You're not replacing a top three receiver. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like some easy thing you do. You just get some guy undrafted. Oh yeah, you're gonna be a top three receiver for us. So I definitely think they should be pushing to get the deal done, especially with that negative reaction he had. Of course, it was a completely deserved negative reaction. I'm not a Jerry Jones fan, even though the Cowboys can't aren't a threat. I'm not a Jerry Jones fan. I don't think he treats players well. So next, we are going to some AFC North trivia. Jerry is going to be the person participating. I'm going to be asking him the question.
Gotta stand up
So
for this.
this one is a bit of a difficult one. You got to sit up. You got to sit up. You got to. Oh, you're standing up. It's game time. It's game
Yeah,
time. You got to lock in, bro.
warming up.
So
Okay, okay.
we are going to be going with the all-time passing, rushing, and receiving leaders for every single team in the AFC North. How are you feeling, Jerry? Are you confident?
I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna go get that gold like
You're
Noah.
gonna get it done. All right. All right. So we're gonna start with the easiest one. I'd say is going to be the Steelers. Can you start with me? Start for me with their all-time leading passer. This one's a layup.
Of course, Big Ben. A little bit of a
Big Ben
controversial guy, but
Roethlisberger.
great career.
Yeah.
Easily number one.
All right, that is correct. Next up, let's go. Oh, by the way, you get three hints. All right,
Three hints. All right.
three hints. All right. So we're gonna go with their all-time leading rusher now.
That's a little tough. I mean, Le'Veon Bell's up there. I'm struggling to think of another like all-time great Steelers running back besides Le'Veon Bell.
Really, I know this guy, man. He was a beast in Madden 20 Ultimate Team, man. That's all I can tell you, bro. Unless you want a real hint.
I mean, it's obviously not Najee. Could it be? Could it be the bus? Uh,
Is that your final answer? Do you want a hint, or is that your final answer?
do I have three hints total or three hints for each team?
Three, bro. Three hints total. Three hints
All
total.
right. Now I'm gonna save my hints. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with Jerome the Bus Bettis.
Actually, Jerome the Bus Bettis. That is incorrect. The answer is Franco Harris. He made, if you don't
Oh,
remember, he
the
made the
North.
greatest
Yeah,
catch of all
the
time, bro.
I don't know my greatest
Greatest
catch of all
catch of all
time, but
time. I mean,
immaculate reception.
but
Okay,
back then it was,
yeah,
yeah, the immaculate reception. All right. Next, we're gonna go to all-time leading receiver.
okay. I mean, first one that comes to mind is AB. I think Hines Ward is probably up there too. AB's career probably was too short for him to be.
That's a good thought.
I'm gonna go.
That's a good thought.
Mm, just with Antonio Holmes, he had a pretty good career, but I don't know if he's all the way up
Ah,
there.
yeah, he did have a pretty good career.
I'm gonna go with Hines Ward though. Final answer.
Hines Ward is correct. Hines
Yes,
Ward is the
sir.
all-time
Okay.
leading receiver for the Steelers. That's a great job. That's a great job. Next, we're gonna go to one of the hardest ones on this list, in my opinion. There's one I know you will not get. We're gonna go with the Cleveland Browns. So, could you please start with their all-time passer for me?
I
The
mean,
Browns
this
are
is probably
terrible
the
with
worst
quarterbacks. The
quarterback.
Browns are the Bears.
Yeah,
Nah, the Bears, the
yeah, it
Bears, the
might be
Bears,
them
the
or the
Bears.
Bears, bro. Yeah, Bears have never had a 4,000 yard passer, but
It's crazy. Hey, Justin Fields would have been the one, man. They gave up
okay,
on my guy, man.
sure, buddy. But
So who's their all-time leading passer? Do you need a hint,
I
or do
mean,
you
it's
just want to
not
concede
gonna.
on this one?
It's probably not gonna be Tim Couch. I'm gonna take a hint. I'm gonna take a hint.
You're gonna take a hint. This
Yeah,
guy, he was the 19. I'm gonna give you several because it's really hard. He was the 1980 MVP. In his MVP season, the Browns were 11-5. This is 1980, so he's not
1980.
that old. Yep,
For some reason, I keep thinking of Boomer Esiason, but he was on the Bengals.
Boomer's the Bengals.
Yeah,
Yep, he was drafted in the 13th round of the 1972 NFL
13th is
draft.
insane, bro.
Oh my goodness. But I'm not gonna lie, I
Have
don't
you
blame
heard
him
of this
because he
guy?
went to Grossmont. No, bro, he went to Grossmont College, bro.
Uh, yeah, I'm gonna have to concede. No, I have
Are
no
you?
idea.
The answer is Brian Sipe. Brian Sipe
Never heard of that
is
dude, bro.
the
Crazy.
yeah, I've never heard of him either. Is the Cleveland Browns all-time leading
How many
passer.
yards did he
Next
have?
up, we're gonna go to how many yards did he have? He had 23,713. He had a season where he threw 28 touchdowns, 26 picks. So next up, are you locked in, bro? Are you cheating?
Roll up. No, I'm not cheating. Swear, swear. All right, we're good. We're good.
Okay, okay, okay. All right. Leading rusher for the Cleveland Browns.
Of course, got the same name as the team. It's gonna be Jim Brown.
All right, Jim Brown is correct. Now, the leading receiver
All
for the
right.
Cleveland Browns. This one's a little bit obscure. I'll give you a quick free hint. He is not a wide receiver.
Okay, it's got to be a tight end then. Um,
Or
no
is
way
it
a
a
running
running
back
back?
leads
Or
them
is it a
in.
quarterback? Who knows, bro? I don't know, man. Who knows?
Tight end. It's not gonna be like David Njoku. Let me think of Browns tight ends.
No, no, no.
Hey, David Njoku's
That would
tough though.
be
Don't
ridiculous.
don't
Yeah,
sleep.
yeah, he's tough, but not all time great tough, bro.
But I feel like a
Do you
casual.
want
I
to
feel
use
like I should know
another?
this.
Yeah,
You've
bro.
heard of this
Another
guy?
way I know this guy. Once again, Madden 20. What'd you say? Yeah, of course,
Okay.
Madden 20 Ultimate Team. But he is on a lot of greatest tight end of all times lists just because of how good he was receiving wise for his time. That should give you another quick hint. It's an older guy.
Older guy.
Let's put the phone on
Damn. I
silent,
know.
buddy,
I'm gonna know
please.
this. I'm gonna know this. I'm gonna hold my phone up here. Put it on my laptop.
Are we conceding again?
I'm gonna know it as soon as you say it. But yeah, I'm gonna concede. I'm gonna concede.
The answer is Ozzie Newsome.
Okay, I'm not mad at that. I've heard of him, but I'm not mad at missing that.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we got another one. That might be a little bit easy for you. We got the Baltimore Ravens. So, leading passer. Who's the leading passer of the Baltimore Ravens?
Has to be Joe Flacco, right?
That is correct. Joe Flacco is the
All right.
leading passer for the Baltimore Ravens. Now we're on to the leading rusher of the Baltimore Ravens. Who you got?
Give me the 2,000 yard rusher. Give me Jamal Lewis.
That is correct. You're on fire, bro. I see you. I see you.
Sir. Okay,
All
okay,
right,
okay.
that is correct. Jamal Lewis. Jamal Lewis. Uh, Now, the leading receiver. This guy's quick
It's
hand.
gonna
This
be a
guy's
tough one.
best years were not in Baltimore, but he is still the leading receiver. It seems like Baltimore's had problem with receivers forever. It's not just now with Lamar.
I know. I can't even think of a legendary receiver that was on the Ravens.
This guy he's pretty underrated, man. Some pretty good numbers. He put up some pretty good numbers. Just didn't make many Pro Bowls.
Is he a Hall of Famer?
No, he is not. He only made two Pro Bowlers and one first team All Pro.
All right, I'm gonna take another hint. Give me a career range.
A career range, he played from 1997 to 2011. From 1997 to
Oh,
2004,
I
he
should
was on
know
the
this.
Tennessee Titans. From 2005 to 2010, he was on the Baltimore Ravens. And in 2011, he finished his career, played half of the year with Houston, played the other half of the year with the New York Jets.
Titans receiver.
In
Who's
that in
a
that
good
uh
Titans
in
receiver?
that 90s to early 2000s, he is a wide receiver.
Who's a good Titans receiver? That's actually tough. I'm not gonna get it. You got to tell me.
It's Derek Mason.
Oh, I should have
Have you heard
known.
that
And
name
that his
before?
were his best years not with the Ravens. I know him for the Ravens.
His best years were with the Titans. He put up 1,300 in his second to last year with the Titans. Put up 12,000 yards
Really,
over his career, man. It's a
I
pretty
didn't
good
even know he
career.
was on the Titans. I'm not
All
gonna lie.
right,
I only knew him for the Ravens. But
yeah.
yeah,
All right. Now we're gonna go last but not least. Little hint for our division predictions.
Cincinnati.
Last but not least, we'll go with the Cincinnati Bengals. Who is your leading passer for the Cincinnati Bengals? You have one
It
hint
has to
left,
be
by the way.
Boom. No, not Boomer. It's gonna be Carson Palmer. Carson Palmer.
Carson Palmer is incorrect.
All right, wait.
Ken
All right, this
Anderson
won't count.
played his.
Ken Anderson, really?
What'd you say? Ken Anderson
It's Ken.
played his
I'm so
entire career with the Cincinnati Bengals. That's probably what hurts Carson Palmer. Ken
yeah. He
Anderson
played with
played his
the
entire
Cardinals.
career. Yeah, with the Bengals. Carson Palmer outdoes him by 8,000 yards, but in terms of
Mm.
total career. But Ken Anderson did play his entire career with the Bengals. He's a one-time MVP, four-time Pro Bowler. He's a legend. Not very
I
known.
would have
I feel
thought
like this
Boomer would
era
have
of
been
the
higher than him.
NFL gets lost. Yeah, but I don't know. This era of the NFL gets lost a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boomer played like the back half of his, not the back half, but like the back quarter of his career with the Jets as well. But
Mm.
he still has less career yards than Ken Anderson. Next up, we're gonna go to the Bengals' all-time leading rusher. Who you got?
Not gonna lie, I have no clue. Can't even think of one.
Do you need a
You're gonna have
hint?
to give it to me. Nah, I'm gonna save
Like
my
the
hint for the
hint or the
receiver.
answer? You're gonna save your
Nah,
hint,
yeah,
bro.
just give me the
What?
answer.
You're gonna save your hint for the receiver for the Bengals? You're sure you want to save your hint for the receiver for the Bengals?
Okay, I'm pretty sure I know the receiver, but like,
You're sure you
actually, no,
want
I
to
am gonna
save
save.
it for the
I'm gonna
receiver?
save the hint because I don't because there's two guys I'm thinking of for the receiver.
There's only one guy you should be thinking of. Okay. All right then. So what's your answer since you don't want to use the hint on the running back? The other guy you're thinking about a receiver is a solid guess though. But who is your running back then since you don't want to use your hint here? Quick little hint, his
Okay, well,
best
since
year
you
was
basically gave it
not.
to me, it was not with the Bengals.
It was not with the Bengals. His best year was not with the Bengals. Are you sure you
I
still
can't
want to
even lie.
save
I
your
just can't
hint?
think of a single one.
Oop.
I'm
Are
gonna
you sure you
concede.
still want? Huh?
Who is it? I can't hear you.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Are you sure you still want to save the hint?
Yeah, I'm gonna concede.
You're gonna concede?
I don't
Wow.
have an answer.
Okay.
I don't have a single
The
answer,
answer.
bro.
The answer is Corey Dillon. Corey Dillon
It was
played for
who?
the Bengals from
Oh, Corey.
'97 to two. Corey Dillon
I wouldn't have thought
played
of
for the
that.
Bengals from '97.
I don't know.
Yeah, '97 to '03 played for the Bengals, and then his best year was in New England with Tom Brady. '04 put up
Yeah.
1,600 yards with 12 touchdowns. I feel like I kind of gave you the answer already for the receiver, but who do you think is the leading wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals?
Well, I guess it has to be Ocho Cinco, huh?
It is Ocho Cinco. The correct answer is Ocho Cinco. So
Yeah, I was
you
thinking it could have
went.
been
Let's
AJ Green.
calculate. It could have been AJ Green. Yeah, I realized what you were thinking there a little bit through, but there's only one guy in my opinion. You went 3 for 6, and you got two on the Ravens. That is 5 for 9. You went 6 for 12. You got a 50. You failed. How does that feel, Jeremiah? You sat up at the beginning. You seemed so confident, man. What happened?
Man, I just didn't put up the performance I needed to, but I'm gonna come back in the NFC North video. I know my stuff on the NFC North.
The audience is disappointed, man. But we are going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we will get into the meat and potatoes of the episode, talking about the AFC North. So we'll see you guys then.
Be
So
sure to alert.
we are we are back from our break, and now we're going to get into our offseason overviews for the AFC North. So the first team we're going to start with is the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a team who needed some wide receiver help after that Deontay Johnson trade. They needed corner. Offensive line needed a bit of patching up, especially at that center position coming to this offseason. Addressing that center division position, they drafted Zach Frazier out of West Virginia. He's an immediate upgrade at center over who they had before. He finishes well through the whistle. He's a good effort player. He sustains blocks very well. He's very physical, and he's a great run blocker. He's also a decent athlete. They also drafted Troy Fautanu out of Washington, who is an elite prospect, one of the best, if not the best tackle prospect in this draft. And I think those two draft picks can help them a lot. This offensive line was not great last year. It was probably around below average range, but I think with these two draft picks, I'm really high on Zach Frazier. I think everyone's high on Troy Fautanu, but I think Zach Frazier is going to be a really good player. I think that these two signings can help that offensive line a lot. Wide receiver wise, they brought in Quez Watkins via free agency. They brought in Roman Wilson through the draft. Um, I'm not a bit huge fan of this, especially after trading Deontay Johnson. You hope they're going to get some more receiver help. But I think that, yeah, I don't think that wide receiver core is looking great. You want someone like Russ to have a stronger receiver core around him at this point. And I guess if Pickens can take a big leap, then it won't be a problem. Um, but yeah, I'm not too excited about that receiver core. What do you think, Jerry?
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. With the loss of Deontay Johnson, they just don't really have a certified number two, and bringing in only Van Jefferson and Roman Wilson. That's just not
Yeah,
really enough to ensure that Russ will have good targets to throw to. And not to say that Russ is a bad QB, but at this point in his career, he's kind of more of a system guy. So you want to give him as much support as possible. And I think
yeah.
he's definitely a temporary option for them, but I think that with this current offense, that he's not going to have much to work with.
Yeah, so continuing on, they signed one of my favorite moves in the offseason. If you haven't watched that video, go check it out. One of my favorite moves of the offseason, Patrick Queen. A lot of people said he only looked better because he was playing along Roquan Smith, but I feel like I saw a lot of development from his younger days. I think he got a lot better. He was playing downhill more, and I think he played very well. He was sixth among linebackers with a 25.5% pressure rate. So he's a guy who can do it all. They also signed Deshaun Elliott, who is going to be solid depth in that safety room. Peyton Wilson is a draft pick I love. 6'4", 238, 4'4", 40. Good in coverage. He can blitz. He's a tackle monster. I think Peyton Wilson, him doing all this with no ACL still shocks me, man. The guy's a physical freak. So I think he can be a nice depth piece. I don't think he's going to start off rip for them this year, but I think he can be a very nice depth piece, excuse me, for them as a rookie this year. And obviously the main moves that they made were through the quarterback room. I think that this, even though yes, Russell Wilson isn't one of the best guys in the league anymore, I think going from Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph to Justin Fields and Russell Wilson is a huge upgrade. I think this just gives the team a lot more stability, just a lot more stability, because I think that Justin Fields isn't a terrible quarterback and things aren't going great with Russ. I don't think it's been bad reports coming out of camp about Fields. He didn't have the greatest preseason game, but I think that Fields, I think and Russ is those are two good moves, especially for the price they got Russ at. It was like chicken change. So I think that's a great move for the Steelers. I would give their offseason a B plus. I really liked their move to get the quarterback in, their offensive line retooled through the draft. I am scared, a little scared about the wide receiver help, but I think also with getting Dante Jackson some more secondary help, I think they addressed their offseason needs pretty well. That's why I give them a B plus. What's your grade for them?
Yeah, I think I have to go with just a middle of the pack B for them. Uh, yeah, like you said, I really like their draft. Troy Fautanu is a baller, and I think he'll be a great plug and play guy for them. He won't need much information or much teaching up to start in this league. But I just think that that receiver problem will be a much bigger problem than you emphasized, and I think that I'm not a huge fan of the QBs they brought in. I mean, I think Russ was a great signing because of the deal they got him on. They paid basically nothing for him. But I think at this point in his career, he's just not the guy that he used to be. And even if he had a pretty efficient season last year, I just don't see that happening in this Steelers offense. And I mean, my feelings on Justin Fields. I don't think he's a very good passer, even if he's one of the most electric runners in the league. So I think that they just didn't do enough to fix their problems. So I give him just a B, leaning towards a B minus.
I think I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit there because with how stable this run game is, I mean, with Jalen Warren and Najee Harris in the backfield, I really think they can thrive off of teams not being able to play off them uh, in that running game. Although, yes, I'm not super excited about the wide receiver room. I think Jalen Warren and Najee Harris will be enough threat to hopefully keep this offense more balanced. And I think Pickens can take a leap. So I do think that run game will support Russ a good amount. I think they're going to run the ball obviously more than they throw it. So I think that could help them a little bit. Moving on to the next team, we've got the Bengals.
And that's where I'll take over. Oh, the Bengals? Oh, shit. Well, either way, that is where I'll take over. The Cincinnati Bengals had a pretty solid offseason. Not too much to say in their draft, but they did draft one of my favorite players in the draft, D tackle McKinley Jackson out of Texas A&M. I'm a huge A&M fan, so them taking him in I want to say the third round was a huge one surprise for me. I didn't think they'd really go for him after signing Sheldon Rankings, but I'm glad that they picked him. I think he will be a good player. I think he was quite underrated. They made a lot of big moves this offseason, though, picking up Geno Stone, a safety that they stole from their division rivals, the Baltimore Ravens. He had an amazing season last year. Was a ball hawk and just a great player for the Ravens. They also got some more safety help with Von Bell. They signed the running back out of the Colts, Zach Moss, who is a fantasy legend for many people, including Josh over here. As I mentioned earlier,
Mm-hmm.
they signed Sheldon Rankins, who will help them heavily in their run defense because their run defense was very below average last year. Um, they also signed Mike Gesicki and Trent Brown, who I think will be less less major signings. But if Mike Gesicki can get back to where he was a couple years ago, he can be a major impact player for them, seeing as they have a hole in the tight end spot. But even with all that they added, they lost possibly even more. Lost running back Joe Mixon. Not much they could do about that with his whole situation, but that's still a pretty big loss. He was a good player. Lost Tyler Boyd, arguably the best wide receiver 3 in the league. Could be a wide receiver 2, or even on some lower end teams, a wide receiver 1. And he's a very good player that they're going to miss. As well as losing DJ Reader and Chidobe Awuzie, two very big parts of their defense. But they were able to make up for the loss of DJ Reader with the signing of Sheldon Rankins. I prefer DJ Reader to Sheldon Rankins, but Sheldon Rankins I feel is more dominant in the run game, and he kind of is a more sizable D tackle. So I think that that's a fair trade. Um, and they also lost tackle Jonah Williams. Don't think they'll miss him too much because of his history with the Bengals, but that is a notable loss. Um, Overall, I think that the Bengals did have a pretty good offseason, especially with signing Geno Stone, Zach Moss, and Sheldon Rankins. Zach Moss, I mean, I think he'll fit into that missing running back spot perfectly. They needed a running back, and he showed out in the time that Jonathan Taylor was out last season. And of course, he got pushed to the
Hmm.
side when Taylor came off of the injury list. But I think that he can be a great starting running back in this league if he's given a chance. And Geno Stone already proved himself last year as one of the best safeties in the league. So overall, I'd probably give their offseason a B plus. They did lose some big players, but I think that their signings kind of made up for it, and I like their draft as well.
Adding on a little bit to what you said, I really like the pick of Jermaine Burton as the wide receiver 3 for the Bengals this year. He's a really cool tape at Bama, and I think he can develop very well in this wide receiver room. I think with them only tagging T. Higgins for this year, I think that he can take a step into that wide receiver 2 role next year. But I think this will be a good year for him to develop as a young player. Another draft pick I really liked was Amarius Mims. He's a huge, really raw, athletic prospect. He might get some burn because of Trent Brown's issues to start the season, so he might get some starts. He only had 8 college starts. I used to not be a fan of these Georgia players who didn't have much production or didn't have much game time
Trayvon Walker.
in college. Yeah, so guys like Trayvon Walker. Me and Jerry did not like Trayvon Walker at all. But Trayvon Walker proved us wrong. So I'm gonna try and be on the right side of history here with the Marius Mims and say that he has a bright future. So that's all I really have to say. I think you covered everything else for the Bengals. Uh, Next up, or I'd say my grade for the Bengals is probably I'd say probably a B plus. I think they addressed the offensive line pretty nicely, and they helped with that run defense a little bit. And they drafted wide receiver, which they could use some help in the wide receiver room after losing Tyler Boyd. So I did like their offseason. For the Ravens, I'll take over here. We know about the Ravens. They have a great defense, but they did need some O linemen, some veteran edge rushers, because at the beginning of the free agency cycle, their edge rushing room was looking really young. Wide receiver, which is always a thing for the Raiders, for the Ravens, excuse me, and to bring back Justin Madubike. They got that last part done. Fantastic Aggie alum. Man, he's a
Sir.
fantastic player. He was crazy last year. Addressing the offensive line problems, we have Roger Rosengarten out of Washington. He had a great year the whole year, but in that Michigan game, he was awful. Michael Penix had no time to throw, but I think he's still a good prospect. I think a bad game shouldn't be defining someone as a player. I think he's a solid run block, a better run blocker than he is pass protector, which we saw in that game. But I think that he's a great athlete and he'll translate very well to the NFL. I think they did a good job bringing in some veteran edge rushers in Kyle Van Noy on a very cheap, team friendly deal. I really like that move. And Nate Wiggins with this preseason game. Nate Wiggins, I am high on Nate Wiggins. He looked fantastic in that game. His
Yeah, he showed
length
out
was
against
really
my
on
Eagles.
display. Yeah, his length was
Yeah, I
really
think
on display, and it's looking like at the 30th pick, that might be one of the steals of the draft. Another player you really like, Tez Walker out of UNC. Um, If y'all haven't seen the video, the way Jerry talks about Tez Walker in that video, go check out our underrated rookies video. But I think it's great value for the pick to where he fell. I think he has some great tape. I think he could have a really good year for the Ravens this year. Obviously, the big move of this offseason for the Ravens, King Henry coming over from the Titans to the Ravens. I think this is finally the answer to the solution. I think Lamar Jackson has been this team's leading rusher for so many years in a row now, but I think that load is going to get taken off his shoulders. I think Derrick Henry will be the leading rusher, but I do think this will unlock Lamar Jackson as a runner even more. He has lost a lot of weight, so he's looking more like his 2020 MVP self, which I think can lead to a lot more rushing yards. Him being as electric as possible. I'm really excited for this offense next year. I'm a big fan of Tez Walker, so I'm happy to see what he'll do. Odafe Owe. He's been there for a little bit. He's not a new signing, but he's had an amazing camp from. He had an amazing camp from what's been coming out. But they did lose Geno Stone. They also lost Patrick Queen. Those are two big players. Those are two players that were huge parts of this elite defense. I still think they'll be great, just because that Ravens defense is almost more like a system. Just whoever you put in there will be great. But I do think Geno Stone's losing all those takeaways. He led the AFC in interceptions, and losing him to a division rival is not helpful. Patrick Queen was also lost to a division rival. So we'll see how those moves turn out for them. I don't think it's going to hurt them too much on the defensive side of the ball just because of the Ravens, but I still do think those are some losses. Adisa Isaac is a edge rusher from Penn State who they drafted, who could be a strong depth piece this year. Probably not starting, but could get some burn and make his impact known on the field. Is there anything you'd like to say about the Ravens before we move on?
Yeah, man. I mean, they had some big losses, but I think they had, besides for the Eagles, I think they had my favorite draft in the league. You already touched on Nate Wiggins, Tez Walker, and Adisa Isaac, but I'd also like to bring up a guy in TJ Tampa, who I also mentioned in that
I
underrated
forgot
rookies
about
video.
him.
You also go check that out. TJ Tampa is a great player out of Iowa State, and I think he just fits perfectly into this Ravens system because of his flexibility. He's mainly a man corner, but he's very good in zone as well, and I just love to see him. Also, Devin Leary out of Kentucky. He's not an amazing prospect, and he's probably not going to get any play time this year, but I just really liked him in college. So I feel like I had to mention that.
Yeah. All right. So now we're gonna move on to the last team. We're gonna go with the Browns.
Yep, and I'll take over from there. We've got the Cleveland Browns. The Browns didn't honestly lose too many huge players. I'd say their main loss was honestly probably Joe Flacco, who had an incredible run towards the end of the season last year, which got ended by the Texans. But main additions, they did get Jerry Judy from the Broncos, who should shore up their wide receiver room. They got Jordan Hicks, who's a very good player. Jameis Winston, who can back up, back up.
Deshaun.
Forgetting his name here,
Deshaun.
Deshaun. My fault, Deshaun. And Devin Bush, Katie York is also a very good young kicker who they picked up. Um, They also lost, Sione Takitaki, who was a very good, very underrated linebacker in my opinion. I liked him very much, and I think that loss could affect them. But they did bring in two new linebackers as well, and Jordan Hicks being my favorite of them. Um, I wasn't the biggest fan of the Cleveland Browns draft. I did like Zach Zinner out of Michigan. I think he's a good guard and has a good chance to get some burn this year. As well as I love Jamari Thrash, another one of those rookies I mentioned in my underrated rookies video. But outside of the two of them, I didn't think they had very much of an exciting draft. Only made 6 overall picks, and most of them just weren't anything special in my opinion. But I am a huge fan of Jamari Thrash, and I think he will have a good chance to get some play time this year, especially with questions around Jerry Judy and whether or not he can hit his
Yeah,
potential. I've never been very high on Jerry Judy. I don't think Josh has either.
he's
But
not hitting his potential.
but he is at least at the very least a starting caliber receiver in this league. So hopefully Jamari Thrash gets a chance to play there. Um, Overall, I'm just not a very big fan of the Cleveland Browns this season. I don't think that Deshaun will be able to return to his former glory. I don't think, like Josh said, that Jerry Judy will be able to live up to his expectations as he hasn't for his entire career. And I just don't really believe very much in this Browns team, and I don't think they really added enough to make me believe in them. I mean, obviously their defense was great last year, and they didn't do too much to change it outside of the addition of Devin Bush and Jordan Hicks. But their defense also did crumble in the wild card round, and that's not something to be confident of, especially when their secondary was the best part of their defense. They were getting absolutely fried by CJ Stroud. So I just don't think that they did enough this offseason to make me put any confidence in them. If I were to give them a grade, I'd give them a B minus, maybe even a C plus. I'm just not a huge fan of this offseason outside of Jordan Hicks and outside of Jamari Thrash. What about you?
Yeah. Um, Me personally, I've been a big fan of Devin Bush since he was younger with the Steelers. His career hasn't panned out how I thought it would, but hopefully he can revive it in a good defense like the Browns. I also think re-signing Zadarius Smith was a good move. They re-signed Shelby Harris, so I think the guys that they brought back were very crucial. Obviously, Zadarius Smith was a huge part of this defense. So I think those are some good moves. I'd probably give them a B minus as well. I don't think their offseason was very outstanding. I do like Jordan Hicks, of course. Deonta Foreman is a solid back, but I just don't think it was anything spectacular. So now we're going to move on to our AFC North standout players for each team. We'll start off with the Steelers. Who do you have as your standout player for the Steelers this year?
Um, I'd probably have to go with George Pickens. I think he'll really have to take another step. He's been a great receiver so far in his young career, but I think that he'll have to take a huge step forward if this offense wants to do anything. And I think he is capable of making that step. I'm predicting him to go around 1,200 to 1,300 yards this year.
I think my standout guy for the Steelers is definitely Jalen Warren. I think he can take a huge jump this year. I think that he is going to make himself the guy in that backfield this year. He is one of the most efficient backs in the league, and I really do think he can take an even bigger step and really make Najee Harris the running back to this upcoming season. So, who's your standout guy for the Baltimore Ravens?
For the Baltimore Ravens, give me the rookie, give me Nate Wiggins. I think that while I do prefer TJ Tampa, I don't think that he will have as much of a chance to prove himself this season at least. And I think that Nate Wiggins, I mean, he showed that he is an NFL caliber cornerback in that preseason game against the Eagles. He had, I think, 4 pass deflections in the first half. And
Yeah.
I really like Nate Wiggins. And I think he will stand out for them and he will be a shutdown corner this year.
That's a great pick. That's a great pick. I'd say my standout guy is going to be Tez Walker. I don't think that Ravens wide receiver room is too stacked. I really do think he is player for player. Obviously, Zay Flowers has shown it in the NFL, but I'm taking Tez Walker. I think Tez Walker, a couple years down the line, will be the wide receiver one of this team. I'm gonna go for around 700 to 800 yards for him this season. I think that'll be a solid season, especially for where he was drafted. That would be great production. So I'm gonna go
The
with Tez Walker.
emotions.
The emotions, the way I feel when I, the way
You
I
gotta watch
feel
the
when I
video.
watch, how to
You
watch
gotta
the
watch the video.
video.
You'll understand what he's
Um,
talking about.
So, who do you have as your standout player for the Cincinnati Bengals?
So this is going to be a pull from all the way. Many people haven't heard of him. I'm going to take Andre Iosivas. I might be mispronouncing his name. He was drafted last
Mhm.
year out of, I want to say Stanford. I could be messing that up, but I think he was drafted out of Stanford. Um, right now he's listed as the wide receiver 3 on this depth chart, and I think he will be given an opportunity to take that Tyler Boyd role. And we all know how great Tyler Boyd was, so that's some big shoes to fill for a wide receiver 3. But I think that he will step up. I liked seeing him in the preseason last year, and he scored quite a few touchdowns last year in the regular season. So I'm excited to see what he can do this year, and he's going to be my standout player.
My guy is going to be Zach Moss. I think a lot of people have seen these last couple like year and a half of Joe Mixon and forgotten who he was when he was still an explosive back in this offense. I think that Zach Moss brings in some youth, some more explosiveness. He's definitely more explosive than Joe Mixon at this point. So I do think that was a great move for them. And I think he will return to what he was with the Colts at the beginning of last year when Jonathan Taylor was still out. And last but maybe least, we've got the Browns. Who's your standout guy for the Browns this year?
My standout guy will be the rookie that we've been talking about, Jamari Thrash. I think that with the some slight questions around this receiver room, I mean, obviously Amari Cooper is the definite number one, but with questions around Jerry Judy and Elijah Moore,
Wait,
I think that
really,
Jamari, yeah,
really quickly. What did you think about that trade that Brandon Aiyuk nixed? It
what
was
do you mean?
Brandon Aiyuk for like Amari Cooper in the first, I think, or Amari Cooper in the second and the third, I think.
I didn't see about that, but
Yeah, so there was a trade that like was done, and Brandon Ayuk like stopped it. Even Amari Cooper, whenever the rumor came out, he posted on his story, "I'm down here." Let me get the. But how would you feel about that if Amari Cooper?
you're saying Amari Cooper for Brandon Ayuk and a second?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Okay, so 49ers get Amari Cooper second and third, and the Browns get Brandon Ayuk. This deal was accepted by the 49ers.
ooh, I don't think that's a great deal for the Browns. I think that Amari Cooper is not far off from Brandon Ayuk. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk had a great year last year. I'm not a huge fan of
And he's
Brandon Ayuk. I
also a
don't
little
see him putting up the same numbers. Yeah,
he's definitely a little younger though, so that probably ups his trade value a little
yeah,
bit more.
I understand that, but I just think that Amari Cooper is close close to the caliber of receiver that Brandon Ayuk is in terms of just production from last season going into this year. So I don't think that's a great deal for the Browns, giving up a second and a third on top of him, just for Brandon Ayuk. I
Mhm.
don't think that's a great deal, especially because it kind of leaves them in the exact same situation, just with less capital.
Yeah, that is true. So my standout guy for the Cleveland Browns this year, I am going with Deshaun Watson. I'm really, really, really hoping this is the year. As a former fan of, or as a fan of what he did um, on the
Whoa,
football field in his time on the football
crazy
field, on
pause,
the football
crazy pause.
on the football field. Um, I really hope he returns to what he was in Houston because it's really sad to see him playing like this. It just looks like the spark is gone. He doesn't look that electric anymore, but hopefully he can get back to that this year. So those are our AFC North standout players. Next up, we're gonna do Would You Rather with probably who most people will say is the best receiver in this division, Jamar Chase. So this one's gonna be a little bit more rapid fire. So yeah, you can just answer them quickly. So, would you rather Jamar Chase or Nico Collins?
Phew. Give me Jamar Chase, but just barely. I really like Nico Collins, and I think they'll have similar production this year. But give me Jamar Chase. I got Jamar Chase giving the edge.
Would you rather have Jamar Chase or AJ Brown?
Give me AJ Brown. This might be slightly controversial, but I don't think that Jamar Chase is quite in that top five anymore. I think that with the injuries to Joe Burrow and his, I wouldn't say lack of production because he still had a great year last year, but with his slight downturn in production, I think that there's some other receivers that kind of climbed while he was falling last year. So give me AJ Brown as one of those guys.
Would you give me or would you take Jamar Chase or DJ Moore?
Uh, I'd take Jamar Chase, especially going into next year with how stacked that receiver room is. There's not going to be as much targets going towards DJ Moore, so give me Jamar Chase.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, I definitely agree with that one. That's gonna do it for our Jamar Chase. Would you rather? So, lastly, we are going to do our AFC North predictions. So, Jerry, you can start us off with your fourth place team.
My fourth place team, you might be able to guess it already with how I've been talking about them. I've got the Cleveland Browns. Like I said earlier, I just really do not believe in this offense. I think that Deshaun won't return to his former status. I don't really believe in Jerry Judy to take a step, and I don't think that Amari Cooper will be able to carry this offense. Hopefully, Nick Chubb will be able to come back and be the guy who he was because he's one of my favorite running backs in the league. But even that's not guaranteed with how bad his injury was. There's no guarantee
Yeah.
that he will come back and be the same guy that he was. So hopes that he will, but there's no guarantee of that. Like I said, I like Jamari Thrash, and I think he will be able to take that spot from Elijah Moore. But I don't think that a mixture of Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, and Jamari Thrash will be able to carry what I predict to be bad quarterback play. Um, and I think that their defense may have a problem with performing in the clutch. With how they performed in that playoff game, that could have been a fluke, or it could have just been that they weren't ready for the moment. But I just don't believe in this Browns team. I've got them probably going 7-10.
Wow. Okay, 7-10. In fourth place for me, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers going 9-8. Like you said, this wide receiver room is pretty scary. If that Roman Wilson pick doesn't pan out, it's gonna be scary hours, bro. And for not for the rest of the league, for them, because Van Jefferson as your two in 2024 is just, I don't know, it doesn't sound great. So I do still believe in that backfield. That defense is still clutch. You still have guys like Highsmith, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward. Those are guys that can get it done down the stretch when you need a play. Those are guys you can call upon. So although the defense isn't great by the numbers, I still think they're a good defense. I'm still have them going 9-8. I don't think they're going to lose the winning season streak this year. I think it's just going to be a stable regular team. So I have them in fourth, just because I think this is the best division in football.
Yeah, and for my third place team, I'll go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I also have them going 9-8, just managing to keep that winning streak alive, and somehow they'll find their way into the playoffs as they have. Just, it's just a Mike Tomlin thing. But yeah, I think I agree with you basically with all their issues. I just think that they'll be able to squeak out a couple more wins, or not a couple more wins. I think they'll be able to squeak out the same amount of wins, but a couple more wins against their division rivals, specifically the Browns. And they usually are able to take a game off the Ravens somehow, even if the Ravens are more talented. So I think that
Hmm.
with their better division record, I think that will push them into the playoffs, but just barely.
My third place team is the Cleveland Browns. I think if Deshaun has the year that I'm hoping for, I think they could be a solid 10-win team. This defense is elite. And I think this offense, with the just some things going their way, like the Nick Chubb stuff, especially Deshaun. Deshaun is really the key to this offense. I think that they could have a solid season, and I'm hoping so for sure. As a fan of what Deshaun did on the football field.
And for my number two team, I think you'll be able to agree with this. I've got the Cincinnati Bengals. I
Mhm.
like the Bengals. I think that they will be able to kind of return to their former glory of the 2022 season when they were able to go to the Super Bowl. I don't see them going
You
that
think
far,
you
but
have the
I'm
Ravens
sorry.
winning? Okay, I was about to say. I was about to say.
No, I don't. I don't think they'll be able to go that far, but I think that they will return to being an elite football team. I think with the additions to their defense, especially in the run, I think they will be better against the run than they were last year. Although their secondary might be slightly weaker, even with the addition of Geno Stone, their cornerback position is under a little bit of question. I do like Cam Taylor Britt, but I think that their cornerback position is still under some speculation. Um, and so, with all that in mind, and assuming that Joe Burrow stays healthy, I'll give them a solid 11-6 record. I think they'll be a good playoff team, and just second to my number one.
Yeah, I have the Bengals second as well. I think they'll probably be 12 to 13 wins for me. I think if Joe Burrow stays healthy, everybody stays healthy, I think this offense will still be explosive. And I think that they just have to take full advantage of what is probably their last year with T. Higgins. So I think that this offense with the rejuvenated running back in the backfield, I think it'll be incredibly explosive. Even though if their defense isn't fully figured out yet, I think this is the best their offensive line has been in the Joe Burrow era, which should help a little bit with the injuries. So I'm going to have the Bengals in second place. And I think obviously we both have the same first place team, but you can speak about them first.
Yep, and we're gonna go with the Baltimore Ravens, consensus number one. Although they did have probably the most major losses out of the AFC North teams, they also had some major signings. We already spoke on Derrick Henry. They had a magnificent draft. I just don't see them taking any steps backwards. In fact, they'll probably take a couple steps forward. Their defense may have gotten a slight tinge worse, but I think that, I mean, it's the Ravens. They're always going to have a good defense. They're going to manage to find a way to work out with those rookies with a slightly younger team than they had last year. I think they'll be able to make a way to get their defense back to what it was last season, or maybe even better. And that offense with Derrick Henry is going to be dangerous. I hope Tez Walker will be able to get some minutes and be able to get his chance to shine, because I really believe, like Josh, that he is a great player and that he will stand out if he's given the opportunity. So I have the Ravens going 13-4 and taking the 2 seed overall, but the 1 seed overall, but and the number one, yeah, and the number one in this division.
Okay, okay. I do have the Ravens number one as well. I do love Tez Walker, of course. And I just think that this is going to be, to keep it short, since Jared gave a great explanation already, I think this is going to be one of the scariest backfields of all time. To keep it short, I think it's just going to be so difficult to play against Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the same backfield. I think that can pose a lot of different problems for teams. So I'm just really excited to see how teams handle it. I really don't think they're going to, but I just want to see how this team pans out. I'm really excited to watch them week in, week out. So that's going to be it. First episode, finally in the books, finally getting it out to you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If there's any content you want us to do in the future, any video ideas you have for us, let us know down in the comments. Follow our socials: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.